Morning. Just had to shoo my husband out of the kitchen. He was doing a plunge of coffee and he was going really slow. And he's going, I need to do it slowly. I know, I'm being patient. Get out. All right, so our daughter and her partner came down from Ballarat last night. They're staying here and staying till Mother's Day tomorrow, which is very nice. And so I thought I'd make some rolls. And I thought I'd try a different recipe. I had a really big bread day yesterday, but what I'm going to make is yogurt bread. So I'm going to start cooking. I've just heard they're coming back in. They've been out there. Anyway, hopefully, I have a bit of peace and quiet. I forgot to get the water, 180 grams of it. Remembering when you take your lid off, you always need to tear. So we're back to 0. There we go. 180 grams of water. Oh, 10 grams of sugar. A little bit of sugar here. Got raw sugar. Hello. And 1.5 teaspoons of yeast. Now, I have seen some people recommending you get the sachets, but I don't recommend you get the sachets because of the plastic. So get hold of this. You can get it in the supermarket and it actually lives in your freezer and you just pull it out and use it as you need. So I have 1.5 teaspoons of dried yeast, and when you're putting it in, just make sure you don't put it onto the blades. You want it in the water. Not quite sure why they've got the scales. Oh, in case it's the freshly yeast, they've got the scales up. 1 minute 30, 37 degrees, speed 1. So what that's doing is, with the sugar as well, it's activating the yeast. I just make sure I've got the right thing up behind here. Go. Show my screen. So I've had a bit of a bread making binge, I guess. And if we have a look at my wheat, just a little tip here. So this is what I'm actually making today. I'm not doing the fish fry, I put that into someone else. But I am not making that, so I'm going to remove that. I'm not making that, remove that. But I am going to make the vegetable biryani. I made this last weekend and that was sensational. And I did it with a fish curry, which was really, the coconut fish curry, which was recommended to me. So that was fantastic. But I'm making this tonight. Besides, apart from that, what I want to show you is you can view it this way, which is how I normally have it viewed. Or you can go this way and it shows you what you've done in the past. So the other view just shows you what's going to go forwards. So yesterday I was at a demo and we made the basic bread rolls and they are so simple and so good. Let's go back. I also made the 5C bread. So I did make a bread for me. I'll show you that in a minute. But this one is one, my husband always liked the linseed and something or other Bergen loaf at the supermarket. And I always wanted to make bread for him. But luckily they didn't have any of his Bergen one day. So I thought, right, I'll come home and make this. And he loves it. So that saves us $3 a loaf of bread, which is pretty cool. And yeah, he just thinks it's the best thing. I've got the mix shop tin. So it comes out square. So it's perfect for the toaster, etc., with the lid. Oh, maybe I didn't do that. I'll just quickly show you the bread I made for me, which is a gluten-free one. Ghana, not seed bread. So this one. So this, if you are gluten-free, this is a fantastic bread. I make it, I slice it up and put it in the freezer and pull out slices when I need them. So basically it's a whole lot of nuts and seeds. Now I have to confess, yesterday I didn't have enough quinoa flakes, so I put in wheat-free oats. So I'm not celiac, so That shouldn't be a problem, but that's what I used, and it turned out perfectly. So you can obviously play around with a few things. But let's get back to this recipe, my yogurt bread. So now I'm going to put in 200 grams of plain yogurt. This is homemade yogurt, made in my Thermomix, and these are actually the ice cream containers, or one of the options from the mix shop. So when I make this, it fills 2 of these and I get a bit left over, and I will use a new starter next time. So I will buy a new starter, which is just a little pot of Jana yogurt. But normally I would then put a little, put my starter aside for the next one as well. And I still have a bit left over as well. So I use a really good quality milk. You could probably pay between anything and so my milk normally costs me about $5. And I've got a bit of cream, I've got a bit of milk powder and the starter. So the starter, if you're reusing, something from your last one, that's free. The milk powder, it's 220 grams. I think it's about $10 or so for a bag, a kilo bag of the milk powder. And obviously the cream, you use 200 grams of cream. So I am making my own yogurt. It would be at least half the cost of buying the equivalent amount. And I do have a friend who buys all of hers in individual pots. So whereas this would cost me, maybe $8, something like that, it costs her $33. So it's a massive saving making your own. So if you haven't done it, give it a go. All right. 200 grams of oops, a bit more. There we go. So you can see how nice and thick that is too. All right. Then 550 grams of strong white bread flour. Now, it is important when you're making bread like this that you have a bread flour, because it has more gluten in it, so it's going to hold the shape better. That's what I buy, big bag of that. A Malka. I'll just get this in here. Okay. Then we have a bit of salt. Popping the lid on. And it's just going to mix it all up for 20 seconds on speed 4. So that's what I love, 20 seconds, enough time to clean up. And now with the measuring cup still in place, it's going to knead for 3 minutes. It's looking good. So when it is kneading, it's best to be not too far away from the Thermomix, so it can move around a bit. It's not doing an awful lot there, which is cool, but don't race down the other end of the house and just make sure it's not on the edge of the bench, okay? A couple of other places, well, another time when you should always stay fairly close to the Thermomix, and it's not to do with kneading, but it's to do with when you're whipping cream. So when you have whipped cream, then you just need to keep an eye on it and an ear on it. So you may notice that as you cook more and more with your Thermomix, you actually end up cooking with your ears, and you can hear when things are done. So with the cream, you can hear when it's not sloppy anymore. And it's always advisable, very carefully, to just take off the MC and have a bit of a look. So with cream, just make sure you don't go too far. If you do, for some reason, go too far, then you're on the way to butter. Just keep whipping and find the butter recipe. But basically, you keep whipping until the solids and the liquids separate. Strain off the buttermilk.
and then you wash it with cold water, the butter. The more times you wash it, the longer it will keep. If you want to salt it, you can add some salt. You can also add a little bit of olive oil to make it more spreadable if you want. So if you do find you've gone too far when whipping cream, just keep going. Now, I just noticed that it had something written on the screen. We're looking in here, and it's just saying to grease a large baking tray with oil. What I've done is I have lined it. I've just put one of these silicone mats on, very well used baking mat on. So baking mat is a host reward. So if you're someone who is into bread, then that, and also the bread mat, which I don't have right here because I don't need it for this recipe. They are both host rewards, and other ones are thermoservers. And actually, that's the thing I need to get out for the thermoserver. Because with this recipe, it's going to ask me, I'm going to make the rolls, I'm going to put them on that tray, and then I have to leave them to rise. So as it's not exactly a boiling hot day in Melbourne, I'm going to put some water in a thermoserver. I'm going to sit the tray on top and cover them and leave them to rise that way. And I can see up here we've just got a few seconds left to go. So it's 5 seconds left. So I'll clear the decks here a bit more. Okay. So I just have to get a bit of flour on the bench here. And it says tip it onto the bench. So I'm just going to tip my dough out. Now, just a reminder that this is the bottom of the blades. So the easiest way to get the dough out is to wiggle your blades until it starts to raise. I can feel that coming out. Again, that's done a really clean job. If you had some left, you can get some of this on your hand and just go around and grab it up. But if you had a lot left around the blades, you would turbo, and that will spit it all off there. Right. So I've got this on here, asking me to divide it into 10 equal parts. This is a really cool little thing you can get from the mix shop, which is great for this sort of thing. So I'm just going to divide it in half. I'm just going to roll this out a little bit. Let's divide this into 5. 1, 2, oops, probably haven't done it terribly evenly. A bit off this one. Okay, just put these together. And if you wanted to be super accurate, of course, you could get the scales up on your machine and just weigh each roll. So I'm just going to do that. So if you actually make a bit of a claw, you can make a nice round roll. This is actually quite a firm dough. If they're a bit bigger, it's actually a bit easier to roll. 4. Okay. All right, I'll show you what we're going to do next, and I'll keep rolling those other ones off camera in a moment. So what it says next is shape into balls and put on the prepared tray. Using a sharp knife, which I have here somewhere. Yes. make slits in the tops of the rolls. So I'll just get one here. So I'm just going to do a little thing there and a little one there. All right. I'll do that with all of them. And then it says leave, cover with greased cling film. Now I'm trying to avoid plastic as much as possible. So what I've got is this sheet here, and I have just greased it. So once I've got them all on there, I will cover with this. And then you leave it in a warm place until it's doubled in size, which could be 1 to 2 hours. And I've told you already, I'm going to put boiling water in here. I'm going to sit the tray on top and I'm going to leave it to rise. And towards the end of the rising time, preheat the oven to 180 and bake for 22 to 25 minutes until they're golden and they sound, you know, with bread, you always need to make sure you tap the bottom, and if it sounds hollow, then it's done. So there you go. I will post a picture of these with this once they've been done, but just thought I'd try something different.